great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for inviting me. This is an awesome conference, and I've learned a ton. I've just joined Nestle about 8 months ago, came over from Cincinnati, where I was there for about 15 years. The most important message I want to convey today, core thesis, the tweetable tweet, is that we need to get back to basics as we think about moving the digital and the social media world forward. We are overloaded with buzzwords, jargon. I sense it walking around the halls, and all of that is good because it helps us to dimension this incredibly promising space. But we're all passionate marketers, and we also have to work really hard to convince our upper management and others to make the hard decisions that is really going to make this space great. And I want to highlight the importance of keeping it really grounded. Let me just start by telling you a little bit about Nestle. We sell 1.2 billion products a day across the world, across a number of categories. And it's one thing that's made my job so absolutely fascinating because there are just so many different types of learnings that emerge from different categories, different regions, and alike. And, we're in, for example, obviously in the baby foods area to ice cream, highly localized across markets. We have a joint venture with General Mills. Drinks, healthcare, nutrition is a really big focus for us and growing. Obviously, you're familiar with chocolates and confectionery. Big global brands like Nescafe, huge growing brands like Nespresso across the hall. Mid-tier ones like Dolce Gusto that kind of build on Nespresso technology. Brands like Maggi that I had never even really heard of before I crossed the pond to Europe, but are just everywhere, and really exciting ones to work with. Dairy, you name it, pet care, weight management, sports nutrition, all from a guy who nearly 150 years ago was trying to figure out how to deal with some difficult issues related to children's health. So kind of huge growth over time. So here's, been here 8 months, and as I've thought about what it takes to really build success in digital and to inspire brands, the basics still rule. And I sometimes refer to the boring basics, and it's not as stimulating as a lot of the sex and sizzle in digital and social marketing, but it really does help us get ahead. And let me kind of give some perspective on this. At Nestle, we have a foundational way of brand building called brand building the Nestle way. And this is kind of core to what you learn at Nestle in terms of how to build great, profitable brands. Our digital and social media strategy is very closely tied to that. Symbiotic, inseparable. And if there's kind of a focus area of the digital piece which complements brand building Nestle the way, it's what we call listening, engaging, and inspiring. Relatively simple, and also things that we probably talked about many, many years ago, but we all know that those of us who are passionate about social are kind of taken to the next level in this environment. Now, the brand building house, and again, if it sounds boring, if you're on the vendor side, you really need to know this if you talk to us. We've divided the house of brand building into a number of different rooms, and they all look pretty basic, but they're really important. And the nice thing about this is, as you look at every room, you can take a digital filter or a social media filter and see incredible opportunities. So, for example, the red room, the area that I work in the most is called, creating engaging brand experiences. What could be closer to the core of digital and social media capability? Win with shoppers. I think 2012 was a big year in terms of how social media and digital transformed even the offline shopping experience. But how do we really get those core insights right? Innovate bigger, bolder, better. Everybody in this room is talking about this in various ways, whether it's through crowdsourcing, better testing through Facebook or other tools and the like. Delight with product experience. The fundamentals of effective social media are often about extending the notion of brand through service. The app, for example. Know your consumer deeply. This is one that I am especially fond of because I started an internet listening company before I came to Nestle, but there's absolutely no question that we can understand consumers more deeply, potentially find the big insight, the discontinuous insight, through tapping into online conversation, looking at the database of intentions through search, following the trail of consumer behavior and the like. So I don't want to overstate this point, but we tend to beat ourselves up a lot on ROI. We pull our hair out. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that the stuff that we're talking about is already embedded in the foundations we've been building for many, many years. So if you're looking to be a world-class leader in digital, to really get that currency with your top management, think about how, thank you, John. I've done that before where notes have shown up from my wife. That was my first blog experience. A note showed up from my wife, and a blogger captured it on a photo, and by the end of the speech, it was all over the web. And it wasn't an incriminating comment. It was just, it captured the real-time nature of the web. Just to dive a little bit deeper, and then I'll let this point go. I mean, here's where you would break out something like, creating engaging brand experience. One of our core premises is like search out and identify big ideas that are contact point neutral and inspire engaging, sustainable communication. Another one, which we can all relate to, engage consumers with communication when and where they are most receptive to brand messaging. Doesn't that sound like what we've learned through Facebook or other social venues where consumers are coming to the brand? So again, the foundations will help us build our campaigns in very powerful ways. Don't ignore that before you talk to your customers. Here's one that I really like where, we don't have to leap that far. To some extent, the same insights that build great TV copy, which are inherently talk-worthy, are helping us get more credit in the digital and social space. And this is one I like in particular from our contracts brand, where I think they're up to like 25 million views on YouTube. It's spilled over into Facebook, and many of us are still talking about it. But let's see if we can kind of run this just to give an illustration. And I think we're going to have to jack up the volume. I like that because at the end of the day, the big idea is going to carry forth on social platforms, on TV and the like. And when we talk a lot about POEM, or pay, don't earn, media blending, we need to understand where kind of a TV ad kind of has inherent talk-worthiness online, or where online actually sources offline. Many of you have read about how our Purina brand is using the talking dog in their TV copy, and to some extent that was validated through, I think, something like 50 million views on YouTube. So again, don't think either or, it's highly synergistic, and that's where I think the magic occurs in digital. Now, Another key point is small is the new big. We are going to have to think about how to work in a world of smaller screens. For me, big inspiration in my trips to India, Philippines, Thailand. There's a lot of markets where they're starting with small and it's leading to unprecedented innovation. But it means we're going to have to shrink, serve, and simplify. We're going to have to rethink our branding proposition, and this is going to be a big challenge. We've had a lot of success here. Whether it's the Nestle dessert app in France, which I think has penetrated about 10% of iPhone users, whether it's the Maggi food solution. In Japan, a lot of sophistication in using mobile apps for everything from calorie counting to health diagnostics. But again, working with consumers in a smaller screen experience, and that's going to take a lot of discipline to get it right. As marketers, we tend to clutter up everything. A lot of activity and innovation in the tech space, especially in India, which is, I've been amazed at just how much consumer engagement we get through that platform. Another kind of key takeaway for me is that social smashes silos. We've heard about it a lot, we've theorized it, but it's real. What's interesting about my particular role is that I am actually jointly reporting to both corporate communications and consumer/marketing communications, and that includes public affairs. And that's a really good vantage point to assess the environment. I was just talking to one of my peer competitors, Bow from Pepsi, in a similar situation. We're seeing more of these silo softening exercises, and I think it does enhance the way we see opportunities and challenges for the company. We should also be very mindful of how not only corporate and consumer communications are coming together, but other different functions, marketing, and research are being united in powerful ways through digital and social media. Product quality and sales. Supply chain and digital is a very big one. You think about the transparency that comes to bear vis-a-vis social media in particular. But again, for all of us, how do you turn it into an opportunity? The democratization of CRM. This is big. I think CRM historically has always been siloed with very smart, sometimes jargon-laced experts, and to some extent what's really happening with Facebook and Twitter or Radian 6 consoles is it's kind of democratizing customer relationship management. There's a lot of new people that are entering that space, and I think that's a massive opportunity. There's definitely some watch-outs, but a lot of upside. I love the way, for example, our Nespresso brand really treats services marketing. They'll take a pain point on a platform like Twitter and Facebook and turn it into an opportunity, and then you'll see a lot of love shared by people that are rewarding the brand publicly for doing things right. I love our Skinny Cow brand, which really has figured out the right voice on both Twitter and Facebook in a way that really bonds with their core consumers. And I think that's one of the key areas we need to figure out. It's something I'm still struggling with, what is the right voice for your corporate brand, for your other brands and the like. And this is something that takes a lot of boring discipline before you jump out into the social space. All local is global. I know it sounds like a cliche. Someone even warned me not to say this, but it's true. I do a lot of crisis communication and management, and I've noticed that it's actually it's challenging to manage an issue in a single geography in a world of Twitter that doesn't allow you to qualify where it's coming from. And it means your whole way of responding has to be much more inclusive. It may have to be multilingual, and that's going to create big challenges. But also on the marketing side, huge opportunities. But for brands where maybe product quality varies by region, that may also up the stakes for kind of thinking about new dynamics where all local is global. Share and scale. The biggest opportunity for us in digital and social is to really think about how to build sharing cultures.
I'm going to have to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's
Thank you so much. We
All
love
right.
your speech. Thank you for
Thank
Pete.
you.